If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that surfeiting the appetite may sicken and so die. In Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, Duke Orsino anxiously awaits the outcome of his proposal of love to, I can't even remember her name, and fills that anxiety, that void with music. For me personally, for us personally, music has been a lot presently helping us remember loved ones, filling the void, the anxiety of global wars and politics, or just giving us energy and helping us to escape and have some fun. At the internet, seriously, we have a lot of musicians here, so we're back to music again. But we also love tech. So we love tech, we love music. And we seem to be at the interface at the moment with this internet revolution. You know, is this good for the music industry? Are we going to get more accessible music for free? And what about AI-generated content? Is that a nightmare and a disaster for the content creators? Or is it giving opportunity to people who couldn't afford music education to become authors and composers themselves? Welcome to the internet. Seriously, I'm Lucien Taylor in Oxford.
I'm Emily Taylor in Oxford.
I'm Kieren McCarthy in London.
And today we welcome our next guest, Emma Stenning, a CEO of the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. It's great to have you here.
Hello, it's great to be here.
So today, coming up, Emily will be chairing our discussion with Emma. What are the challenges of benefits of running a symphony orchestra in the wake of the internet revolution and the dawn of AI? Next, Microsoft's head of AI says that ever-present AI assistants are about a year away. What does that mean? And finally, Emily and I were away last week, and we'd like to review with Emma the results of the there were no girls, boys only, spot the difference between AI-generated and human-composed music and songs, and the results are astonishing. First of all, before I hand over to Emily, I've remembered. Please follow us, like or share. The buttons are on your screen now. We need engagement. We need you to be with us and to keep being with us and follow us. It's a fascinating podcast, and we've got lots of lovely, wonderful guests, starting with Emma Stenning today. Emily, take over.
Emma, I'm so delighted to have you on the show, and thank you very much for coming in, being with us in person, which is brilliant. So for those of you who don't know Emma is the Chief Executive of the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, or CBSO as it's known for short. Emma has had a massive career in the arts. She has been Chief Executive of the Bristol Old Vic, also worked in Toronto with Soul Pepper, has been associated with the Globe Theatre, Cheek by Jowl, and almost every major name in the arts over the last few years. So, Emma, welcome to Oxford. First of all, can you just take us through what led you to choose a career in the arts, and also what made you change from theatre, which was your sort of real foundational background, into classical music?
Yes, I mean, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for welcoming me. I think for me, I was always, there was nothing else for me, actually. I mean, it was always a career in the arts. There was never any doubt about that. I was a kid at ballet school every night, doing ballet class, tap class, summer shows, all that sort of thing, and always obsessed with going to see West End musicals on my birthday as a treat. And actually, two things sort of coincided. I think I had an injury in my foot one year and couldn't take part in the school summer show, got pushed backstage to help with stage management, and suddenly thought, oh gosh, this is where the real fun is. And also, I remember my 9th birthday going to see Starlight Express in London and being totally blown away by it. And I think from that point on, according to my parents, just saying, I want to work in theatre, I want to work in theatre. And not quite knowing at that point, I suppose, having any idea what that would be or how it would pan out. And then thinking quite seriously about going to drama school, actually, not as a performer, but maybe taking a stage management course or a production management course or something like that. And actually, I mean, a very inspired drama teacher at my perfectly standard state comprehensive saying, don't do that. What you should do is go to Cambridge. Wow. You should work with Footlights. Yeah. You should be part of the drama scene there, because that's the best route into a career in theatre. And that advice changed my life completely.
I've got to just say, with Cambridge Footlights, it's amazing, isn't it? Because you were part of that community. And as an actor who went to drama school, and then I did about 5 years, I think I'd done, or a few years before meeting you. You brought us into a Cambridge Footlights reunion, and absolutely everyone was there. Tom Hollander and
it was Trevor Nunn, Ian McKellen. It was Pippa Harris that I was a contemporary of as well.
Yes, I know Pippa a little bit. Yes.
And what was really weird going back, for a something or other anniversary, was that all of my contemporaries who had been, like me, just doing loads of plays, either as performers or backstage, they were all running stuff.
Yeah.
So I think your teacher was onto that.
Yeah. And of course it's not, I mean, there's a huge drama community at the university, as there are many universities, of course. I mean, not just Cambridge. And so I felt very lucky to be there, and that accelerated me into a professional career in the arts.
And I think it was a wise choice as well, I think, for work-wise, to go for the backstage work, because it's just much more consistent, isn't it?
Yes,
than
and
the life of a performer.
Yeah, and very quickly at university, I was appointed as producer on the Freshers show, which was the sort of first opportunity to work, rather than at the sort of college level, at the university, the Amateur Dramatic Club, the ADC as it's known. And in fact, I was appointed as producer, and another fellow fresher was appointed as the director, Simon Godwin, now arguably one of the finest Shakespearean directors of his generation, currently artistic director of Washington Shakespeare.
Wow.
Shows, all across the National, the West. So, I mean, I was part of a generation that I think probably as every generation at Cambridge is, as you say, we sort of all find our feet and go out. So I feel very lucky for my peer group, many of whom are working in the arts today.
And what led you to make that change from the theatre to classical music? And, just maybe a few words about differences in culture between the two communities.
It was, and to some degree remains, entirely unexpected. and I think for me, I'd been 10 years at Bristol Old Vic, and that there's such a huge part of my heart and soul that lives in that job and in that place still. I'd spent 10 years working as part of a team that raised and spent 26 million on rebuilding that glorious building.
Because was it closed for a while?
It was closed for a bit, yes. And that the place was built in 1766. It's one of the oldest, finest playhouses in the country. And, you don't go through something like that without it completely taking hold of you and completely changing you. And so after that, I knew I needed something completely different, and so took some time to work overseas, which was a very particular adventure in Toronto. And as I came back from Toronto, I thought, do you know what, I just don't know. At the moment, I'm not saying forever, but I don't know that there's another theatre that I've got anything to give to another theatre right now, actually, because Bristol Old Vic just had all of me in a way. Yeah. So I was doing some freelancing of various different things, and just opening myself, I suppose, to what I might do next, and talking to various headhunters and search consultants and things. And one day one of them called and said, I think I might have the job for you. What about an orchestra?
Fantastic.
And I sort of went, I don't know. And the very next day...
Did you feel daunted at
the
idea?
I'm something in my stomach, which I've always listened to, just sort of went, something just... Yeah. I've never thought about it before.
Are you a musician?
No.
Not at all.
No,
but
not
from
at all.
Dance, it must have. Your early life in dance is so much about responding to music, isn't it?
I'd sort of comically had violin lessons during the pandemic over Zoom from not being able to make a single sound. Yes. But I was utterly terrible. I mean, I have no talent for it at all, but I wanted to sort of get some appreciation of it, I suppose.
Yes, I mean, and certainly in this company, there's plenty of musicians, but there's also this need for, like, project management and management of people. And this is becoming a huge job. I mean, I had the privilege of working with Nick Heitner in the early days as an actor, and I actually stayed with him in digs, and he was preparing for his next piece of work, which was an opera with Opera North. So he was doing that thing of swinging between music and theatre. But it was his power as a manager, I think, that was so attractive. And even now I see Guys and Dolls, and I think this is a management exercise. You've got three stages.
Well,
You've
a
got
huge part of direction is people management and spatial management,
and herding cats, right? Because these are not people who normally respond to classic management techniques.
I think a couple of things happened to me. I mean, after that phone call, I got on a train and I went to Birmingham the next day, on a very rainy day, and went to see the orchestra play. And it just, it was love instantly. I mean, it absolutely captured me. And then I suppose I really reflected on, as you say, actually, my experience back in dance school and going to see the Royal Ballet and that feel, the vibration of the live music and how inspiring that is. And actually thinking of all the theatre that I've been involved with as a producer, it was invariably the work that involved music that had most inspired me. And we'd had a brilliant project at Bristol or Vic, the brainchild of my fantastic artistic director, Tom Morris, called the Bristol Proms, where in fact it was a project to bring the spatial dynamic of the theatre with musicians and technology, in fact, now I think about it, and a theatre director's instinct, and what might that give. And for me, that had become as a producer, very much become my passion project, purely because it brought incredible music to new audiences. And that is my mission at CBSO.
Thank you. Now, before you jump in for your next question, I'm going to interrupt because you mentioned the word technology. We've got to somehow talk about the bridge between this world and the internet and the new dawn that we're all in, and find those links. So to help us with that, we got our fun trivia. It's time for our guilty pleasure online. Emma Stenning, what is your guilty pleasure online?
I realise I've got two that sort of connect, if that's all right.
That's okay.
Yes, that's okay.
We
You're
can have a
allowed
part
to.
A and a part B.
Kieren, is Emma allowed two guilty pleasures online?
Well, we did two last week, didn't we?
Oh, okay.
Well, they occupy the same space for me, really, which is that for me the transition from the workday to my to relaxation is the Archers podcast.
This is great.
Coupled with the New York Times Games app. So for me, there is
both
a blissful...
at the same time.
Yeah. Sometimes the Archers is on my drive home, but sometimes and then I get in and then it's the Games app. Sometimes they are together, but it's that mixture of the minute the theme tune kicks in, something in me just
drops,
just relaxes.
So is this the Archers podcast? and apologies for all Archers fans out there.
You're in the minority.
Okay, yes, I know that. So this isn't just the show. Is this like the backstage?
Oh no, this is sometimes I do, but it's the 13 minutes of pure Ambridge drama
and country life.
Yes, country life.
You nearly said culture. I'm not. Kieren, is this culture or is this that the internet
it's pure English culture.
The internet is for mindless escape.
I'd go with the New York Times Games app, which I also love.
Yeah.
But I've never been a fan of the Archers. But I do understand the podcast component. I have.
For
guilty pleasure. They're pure pleasure.
For a guilty pleasure, it has to be something that you kind of jump
slightly
back from
ashamed
and press escape.
Well,
somebody comes into the room.
I sense you're proud of this.
I'm very proud of being a fan of the Archers, but I suppose the New York Times Game app, I was realising it's a slight obsession for me actually, because
this is good.
Is it crosswords?
It's the whole
Sudoku? Gamut
of those. There's sort of 5 or 6 little puzzles there. And I have to do all of them in a very particular order. So there's something about my sort of impulsive nature. And also I realised that because of course they update every day. If I sort of get in after a concert and a reception and it's gone midnight, I've not done the puzzles.
Yeah.
I find myself like just having to do them. It's
Yes.
like a sort of, but there's something about it that just takes my brain to a different place.
Yeah. Is it like
catch
sort of
you.
taking you into idling?
Yeah, you do that with Sudoku, don't
I
you?
do,
Just
and I've
this-
kind of moved on to Sudoku after I got obsessed with duo trigordal, thanks to Mark.
Gosh, I
here.
don't even know what that is.
Oh, Emma, you're going to love it. So this is where you solve, I think, 2 Wordle things at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
It is not nearly as difficult
I've done
as you think.
Quordle, so I've done the
Okay.
one when
Right.
you get 4 at once,
Yeah.
but 32
Yeah, I
sounds
got
a bit-
really into duo trigordal in a family intervention type of way, but now I've moved on to Sudoku. What's your favourite, Kieren?
I love the timed mini crossword that my wife and I do every morning, and then text each other the results, and then get sort of very slightly annoyed when the other person beats them.
Okay.
Oh,
So
okay,
there's sort of
yeah,
healthy
yeah.
competition, but not nasty
Anyway,
competition.
lovely to talk. Lots of things to cover.
Yes, sorry, yes.
That's our games
Back
review.
to
by the way.
back to my question. We're a tech company and tech podcast, and if you think about both the theatre and classical music scene, how do you think has technology affected that sector over the course of your career in both positive and negative ways?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's sort of 2 aspects to it. There's almost certainly 50, but there's 2 that jump to mind, which is firstly, of course, it's a phenomenal tool of communication, and that's transformative. It's transformative financially because, whereas we used to be spending hundreds of thousands even pounds on print and brochures and programmes and all this sort of stuff, it's been a huge boon financially and also in terms of sustainability and paper resource and that sort of thing, to have these incredibly flexible tools of communication that actually, I can tweet today about this, being here, or we can take a picture and I can put it on my Instagram, and suddenly we're able to communicate much more readily and much more easily than we ever could before. And of course, we're taking huge jumps forward all the time in the quality of footage that we can capture and put out, and how, I mean, for me, what gets most exciting is how that encourages discussion and debate and participation. So I think as a communications tool, it remains something that, I mean, sometimes the arts is racing to catch up because we don't always have the best financial resources or the best means to do that, but we are embracing and enjoying the impact of more immediate and ready communication. And I think particularly in theatre, I mean slightly less so in music, there's been opportunities for the design world and what we see so many shows these days that have sort of projected sets and all that sort of, so which has made touring much easier.
Yes.
So there's, and it's not to say, of course, that there isn't something utterly glorious about seeing a completely handmade,
Hand-built.
hand-painted, of course.
Yes.
But
And that sort of very creative blend of the two.
Exactly.
We were watching Hello Dolly a few weeks ago, and they had a wonderful back projection of the journey from Yonkers into New York City in 18 whatever.
Yes.
And it was wonderful, and it moved. But they also had a very sort
So
of
you had the
like almost
woodcraft.
Wes Anderson type of cutouts.
Yeah.
So the blend of real and projection.
How does that fit with the orchestra? Because for me, I mean, I'm discovering classical music now.
Me too.
And it's like filling. Sometimes in the last few weeks, it's been the only thing I could listen to because it's just there. But I used to think of classical music and symphony orchestras as a complete anathema to me. I was
not
brought up
your
in-
sort of music.
Well, I
sort
wasn't
of
really
thing.
welcome to listen to that sort of music. They didn't want somebody who liked punk rock music. It was quite stuffy. It was quite, and so
you're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of people that would say that, and I think, but also you're not alone in saying if you do find the way in, that you'll suddenly discover something that's meaningful to you, and we pull away a little bit from saying classical all the time, because actually a lot of the music we do you wouldn't categorise in the classical canon. We're doing we do movie soundtracks, we do modern composition, we do also, we've got a concert, we've got Beatlemania coming up quite soon. We're doing a concert of ELO music, of course, one of the great Birmingham bands. So actually the range
and they used
of music,
orchestral instruments, didn't they, in a really creative way.
I mean, actually,
back
one of
in
the projects I'm most excited about at the moment is we're doing a collaboration with a number of Birmingham's amazing grime artists.
Yes.
So it's all about a really sort of particular kind of R&B and rap music. So
I'm so pleased to hear this. And we sent Charlie back there, who's our voice of God during the podcast, and he does our sound. We sent him and our daughter Alice down to Abbey Road for a present to do a recording session in one of their studios, where they have an accessible studio program, which I absolutely love, where young bands and musicians can afford to go into Abbey Road and do a demo track. And they were showed around Studio One, which had been pre-booked by Warner Brothers for the London Symphony Orchestra. And they said to the engineers, what's happening there? You know, this is where McCartney was playing, you know, and Pink Floyd recorded Dark Side of the Moon. And then you've got it all set up for an orchestra. And they said they don't know what they're going to record. You know,
it's just booked.
It's just booked for the movie studios.
The amazing thing, an orchestra, I mean, I think it was Britain that once said an orchestra is an ensemble of possibilities and ideas.
Yes.
And I cling to, I mean, I really think about that almost every day, that actually, that musically there's nothing we can't do. You know, I've got 90 of the world's greatest musicians on the payroll.
Yes.
You know, now, what an amazing opportunity.
In every culture, there's always people, there's always extremists. There must be people who feel that that's a threat, that's sort of you're undoing something that must remain pure and acoustic and never recorded, really, just heard live.
Because it does have that atmosphere, doesn't it? Kind of classic. Well, as you were saying, I'm not sure if I'm the audience that orchestral music wants. And, you know, how do you sort of blend that change, get that change happening?
Some of it is about, I mean, this is really what we're absolutely focused on trying to do at CBSO right now. Part of it is dealing with, you know, some kind of limited PR for music, actually, you know, saying exactly the messages that you've got, that it might not be for me. We've just got to be really proactive in overcoming that. And there's all sorts of ways that we can do that. And one of the most effective is to take the orchestra to unexpected places. So recently, we had the whole orchestra playing music at the Bullring, which is the big shopping centre.
Oh, yes, I know that.
So we were outside of M&S. We had the whole orchestra. We had Kazuki Yamada, our amazing music director, our conductor boss.
He just seems like a legend.
He's fabulous. And we played, we think that afternoon, we were heard by over 10,000 people in that shopping centre.
That's amazing.
Many people, and we were on, you could see us from 3 levels across the shopping centre. There was one piece where it was a Hungarian dance music that gets faster and faster and faster. Kazuki was grabbing people out of the audience who would come and have a go at conducting. and of course,
were people dancing? Were people sort of responding in a very kind of free way?
Yeah, we were playing. And what's lovely, of course, is that people go, oh, it's an orchestra. And they go, oh, I know this. Oh, it's Pirates of the Caribbean. It's the theme tune. I love it, you know. Yeah. And so you give people an opportunity to connect. And it's not dumbing down, because, of course, the next thing we say to that member of the audience is, well, here's a ticket offer. Why don't you come to Symphony Hall? We're there every week.
Yes.
You know, you've happened across this by chance, but look how much your kids are loving it. We've got family shows every season. Try it out. You know, and it's an opportunity. I mean, I was sort of course by the end of the afternoon, because I was just talking non-stop to the people that were coming by and jumping on the microphone every half an hour going, we're your orchestra here in your city to bring music into your life. That's what it's about.
Thank you.
Kieren, again, can I just ask it, you know, is orchestral music your thing? Is it something your family are into? Would you go to an orchestral music concert?
I've been to quite a few orchestral concerts, and I have to say a big part of that is my friend Johnny, who's a professional cellist, has been for the longest time. I was going to say, though, I found that with the sort of classical music world is that one of the most tech-resistant cultures or groups I've ever come across. And I think in part, I mean, they're literally playing antiques, for example. They're playing cellos that are, instruments that are hundreds of years old in some respects. But I remember having countless conversations / arguments with my friends in that sort of classical music world where they're resistant to any kind of technology. The thing that drives me I say crazy, but it makes me laugh, is when they're all grab the bit of paper and turn it over as quick as they can in order to keep playing. And I used to argue with Johnny, saying, why don't you just get a modern screen and it will And he would say, no, that's not the way it's done. It must be done like this.
Yeah. Some of our players are doing that now.
A small boy, who stands there and moves the pianist one.
We love tech. We love music. Bad news sells. So I'm interested in the other side of the internet. Where we heard from our guest Sari Shaw from America last week, and she was sort of saying as a blues and rock player, she's finding the internet is sort of draining, it's concentrating the resources. The winning bands are winning big, the Oasis, the Taylor Swift, and they're driving the whole ticket industry into Ticketmaster, which is also getting jammed up and things like that. I'm just interested, well, let's put it another way. Before that, let's look at our Tech Room 101. Emma Stenning, what is your Tech Room 101? What would you, in terms of technology or the internet, what would you throw in the bin?
I would, and this is potentially controversial, but I would get rid of the anonymised comment.
True attribution.
Why is that?
Well, I think, I've had some experience of this over the last year. There's been a lot of anonymised comment.
Bringing change into such a culturally conservative
And the reason why I don't like it is that I want the discussion.
Right.
What we're trying to... It's not that I don't... You might immediately think, she doesn't want the debate, she doesn't want the criticism. It's actually bring it on.
Right.
But I want to talk to you.
Yes.
I want to be in the debate, because what we're trying to do is very, very difficult. We're trying to find a language of innovation for this art form that helps it discover a new audience whilst absolutely cherishing its legacy and absolutely cherishing the core audience that are already here. So that's really, really hard. And what we're going to do, we need to be in a place where we can try things out. We need to experiment. As I said, there's so much new opportunity on the horizon. We need to, we need to innovate. We need to explore. Inevitably, that's going to lead to us doing some stuff that's terrific and some stuff that just really doesn't work. But the way that we learn, the way that the industry moves forward, is to be in a context of discussion and debate and critique in a positive sense. So for me, the anonymised comment that just sort of chucks in a grenade is really destructive. Not only is it personally difficult,
yes,
but it makes people reticent to explore. It makes people reticent to try the innovation that we need.
And it's so ironic, isn't it? Kieren, would you agree with Emma Stenning's Room 101? And what do you think about the anonymised comment? And, from your background as a journalist, I can see you smirking, so...
Well, I've always defended anonymous comments because, well, as a journalist, that's where you get a lot of the information, and you always need anonymous people because their careers are at risk, or in some cases their life at risk in the worst
But when
cases.
it's a cloak for just trolling, though.
I was just thinking, when was the last time you read an anonymous comment and you thought, that's an excellent point?
And so well spelt as well.
They've really done their
great
work on
here.
this. They've really given this some thought. I'm surprised that they didn't put their real name on it, but no, it was very important that they were anonymous. No, it's unfortunate we've built a culture, online culture, that's quite aggressive and critical and unpleasant. And I do think anonymity has been a big part of that, unfortunately.
Well, in terms of anonymous as well, I always think that the internet can be a bit like sitting in a car. You feel safe, you can stick two fingers up at everyone around you, you can bib the horn, and there's never going to be any attribution. It's never actually going to, you're never going to have to account for it. But actually, if one gets stuck at a traffic light and then you've got to talk to a human, it becomes a different thing altogether. Yeah. And so I embrace what you're saying, this sort of full sense of safety. We are running out of time. One last question from you for Emma.
Okay, gosh, I've got so many other questions I want to ask you, but let's connect with our AI themes from last week. Can you, Emma Stenning, can you imagine the CBSO or any other orchestra doing a concert of AI-composed music in the future or now?
I never say no to anything, because I think we've got to be in a place where we embrace opportunity. Exploration is a really defining characteristic for us right now. So I'd be willing to give it a go, but I think at the end of the day, I'm more of a classicist at heart than people probably think. Yeah. And for me, art is an expression of the human soul. and I would want to be very protective of that.
I'm going to jump straight into our last subject today, and I've got one more, but both of them are sadly on AI. I'm not that obsessed with AI, but it is a very hot topic, and it's actually, I think, at the inflection point in the artistic and musical world, because there seems to be this battle for the AI programmers who are just fascinated with emulating humans. And last week we were away, Emily and I, and we left the boys to have a little fun, and they had an AI out without us. They were completely
it was brilliant.
Into
I
it,
really enjoyed listening to it.
Which was absolutely brilliant, chaired by Kieren. But they set up a little competition to spot the difference between 5 pieces of music, some of which were human composed and some of which were AI generated. Do you have one or two, Charlie?
Yes, we do. Do you want to hear them now?
Well,
no, I just want to know whether you've got them or not.
No, we have
please
them.
Just one or two, just
a few.
With pride, in my life not everything goes right, but the more we struggle, the stronger we fight.
And another one?
But the time is we don't keep track, we don't keep an eye on it. Divide this love between us, cut it with a knife, and then I'll reach full potential. I met you, I want to let you in.
Now, I'm tempted to just immediately go, well, classical music can't be AI generated, so it must be human. But then not everything in my life goes right. It makes me wonder about the lyrics there. And the second one is a. But we can try and guess what we think, but actually, the results were quite astonishing. Can you summarise who?
Well, Kieren, maybe you can take us through it and not in detail, but maybe just your reflection. My impression listening to it was all over the map. We had 3 people guessing. They all had different answers for everything. Nathan, who wins everything, even our cake competitions, got everything right, but everybody else got stuff wrong and right. Kieren, thinking about it afterwards, what was your reflection on it?
Well, what was fascinating is we're having to really listen hard to it. And we're being sort of slightly blasé, saying, well, you can always tell because there's a sort of human component to good music. And that's true. And Nathan got 5 and I got 4. And the one that I edged on the side of real was that opera one, because I thought just hadn't occurred to me that AI got to the point where it could recreate that style of human voice. But I wasn't sure about it because the lyrics were so bland. But the takeaway really was that this is getting quite close now. We're having to listen quite carefully and find reasons to say why you think it was one or the other. Yeah. So I do wonder what's going to happen.
And I was really, sorry to cut across, but I was really intrigued as well because the person who got the least right is probably the most musical of all of you. No disrespect to you and Nathan, but Mark, who is a really talented musician, was the most.
I think he's a bit grumpy about that as well. I think
sorry
he thinks
to bring
it's
it up,
him,
Mark, if you're
he's
listening.
He's also an exceptional programmer as well, so he would believe that. I like to think I can tell the difference, but there's also. I remember as a young musician myself, I loved Cubase and things like that, composition software. So I love the tech behind it, and sometimes you do get drum riffs and beats and things like that.
And it's a huge point of access, right? At our school, we have a secondary school that we lead in Birmingham in partnership with an academy. All the kids there are composing, on their phones and on their computers and everything. So, as a route in, as a tool, it's fantastic.
Oh, I love that. So Emma Stenning.
What tripped up Mark was that he hadn't realised that AI could do people's voices quite well.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the things that keep throwing us with AI is to go, oh wow, I'm very surprised that wasn't what I thought technology did. I think now I would be very surprised if we did it again with him. Now he knows that's possible, and he wouldn't capture it because there's still a little bit of human magic in there in the sort of rhythms and the way it moves around.
And I also found when Igor, who's our camera person there, asked ChatGPT to generate 3 or 4 songs about Mark Robertshaw, our programmer, and it came up within seconds of very different genres, very different songs about Mark Robertshaw, but it was just such dreadful taste.
Yes, drivel.
Who would write?
But they were very accomplished. Dribble.
Thank you very much. And we've just got one last topic, just that Microsoft head of AI said that ever-present AI assistants are about a year away. Kieren, I wondered what you thought about that. You know, I know my mother-in-law is just completely locked out of the internet and technology and things like booking tickets because she can't really access the internet because she can't remember a password, and whenever she does, it's all about your brother sort of resetting the password. Kieren, what do you think about having this sort of assistant beside you for the rest of your life?
I think it's great. I think it's we spend so much time doing tedious things, and AI is really good at doing that. So if it the main thing I would plead humanity to do is when we free up more time is to actually spend more time doing things like going to classical music concerts and not working harder and harder and harder.
I love that point. I'm going to leave Emma till last. Emily?
I think it's... I agree with you, Kieren. Some of my big reflection on AI output is it's fine, but it's uninspiring and uninspired, and it at best it should motivate us to be more creative, to be more original. Yes, it can do our 6-month report in a couple of minutes, but if we're saying no more than what ChatGPT would come out with, then we need to work harder and be more creative and push ourselves a bit more.
Thank you very much. And Emma, ever-present AI assistant, would that help you with your job or would it be a disaster?
Yeah, I think life is too nuanced for that to work. But maybe I underestimate the AI capacity.
Thank you very much. So today we have been having a wonderful discussion with Emma Stenning, the CEO of the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. I shall not forget this discussion. I'm really looking forward to coming up to Birmingham next, and we will definitely come and see the fantastic orchestra, and I all hang around outside Marks and Spencer's and wait for the orchestra to come to me. I love that. We had a little review of the team's AI compositions and real compositions, and analysed a bit of that, the outcome of that, and discussed a bit about the Microsoft head of AI's announcement that ever-present AI assistants are about a year away. Finally, we like to just hook back to the last episode. What's our voice of God? Do we have a comment of the week?
We certainly do. Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comment of the Week.
So, what was that in response to, voice of God?
So, this comment was in response to Nathan Allen's point of AI watermarking, which is apparently something that the Chinese government are looking to integrate into any AI-generated stuff. So this comment is from Weak Bits. I will read it out in all of its interesting grammar, and it goes like this. So China will have better and safer environment than whole West world. I guess we are witnessing a major shift, ... Soon smartest will start to move to China. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, thank you, Weak Bits, for making that comment. I'm going to pass that over to Kieren for your.
I thought you were going to pass it to Emma.
Well, I'm going to give Emma a bit of time to absorb it, and go to Kieren.
I think he's right in some respects. China is actually doing better with technology than we are in the Western world. But I mean, that's the battle, isn't it? I mean, if we don't want to lose this, if the United States and the UK and Europe don't want to lose the best brains, then they need to increase innovation. And that's time immemorial. But I do think China is definitely, we have a sort of mindset of China, but China is doing and thinking about these things and doing really good work, and that's the truth.
Well, so I leave it on a last word. China and the CBSO are working on the future and thinking about embracing technology. Emma Stenning, thank you so much for joining us today, and particularly coming to this little humble studio in North Oxford Industrial Estate. Thank you. You're really super. We're going to leave you today with the fantastic CBSO trailer for their next season. Thank you very much. That's the Internet Seriously.
Time up for a season full of joy.